Happening now, the NTSB is holding a community meeting in East Palestine, Ohio, more than a year after the train derailment devastated the area. Locals are still trying to recover from that disaster, but it gets worse.
A new report reveals that dangerous chemicals from the burn-off of chemicals from the train derailment have now been detected in at least 16 states. This news following whistleblower claims that the EPA wasted critical time assessing the damage, potentially putting area residents' health at risk.
Join us now, that EPA whistleblower Robert Kroutil, along with Government Accountability Project Chief Environmental Officer Lesley Pacey. Both of you, welcome to the show. Robert, I want to come to you first. You're an EPA whistleblower. What was the most shocking part of the EPA's response to this disaster that you recognized?
There were several shocking incidents that I observed. One is they didn't deploy this emergency response aircraft, which could have provided information to the public immediately about the hazards on the site. The EPA also did not collect much data at the site with this aircraft. It's the nation's best capability to detect immediately vinyl chloride and phosgene, some of the compounds that are in the train car derailment. And the EPA failed to deploy this and to collect much data. They only collected 8 minutes worth of data when they should have collected 300 minutes. And finally, they didn't collect data over the streams where the materials were leaking down into the ground. And we are worried about compounds such as ethyl acetate affecting some of the people that live around the stream areas, around the little phosphate areas. So we are very concerned about their situation in this emergency response. And EPA failed in all counts to actually protect the public by providing this emergency response information.
Lesley, are they protecting the public now? And what about all of the individuals who live across that 16-state area? What don't we know?
That's a loaded question. There's a lot we don't know about the contamination in these 16 state areas. We know that the EPA has failed, like Robert said, pretty miserably to protect the public from the get-go, from the minute they allowed this vent and burn to take place, which was unnecessary and created a worse problem than was already happening with these lazy fires. They ignited these chemicals. They did not fly the aspect aircraft when they should have. Their best technology remained on the ground inexplicably. There has been one thing after the other with the contaminated creeks that they did not want to collect any kind of data over. And so we have really been concerned about these other states and how many states were impacted. And now we have information that shows that 16 states were actually impacted by this plume. And it's very disconcerting. From one thing to the next, we have issues where there's dioxin with our independent scientist, Scott Smith. He found dioxin in the crops in East Palestine and in the garlic. And the EPA is just telling everybody to go ahead and eat your crops. And so, I don't think there's much they've handled correctly here. They're relying heavily on Norfolk Southern contractors, too, to do all the testing. So it's not independent by any stretch.
Robert, I only have about 30 seconds left, but do you know why the EPA was so slow in trying to gather data and why they were so ineffective in not gathering all the data they could have, whether it was the groundwater or in the air? What was going on with the EPA?
I don't know, and that's what we are trying to ask through some statements filed to the EPA IG's office. through the gap. Through Lesley Pacey and I are working on that to try to get answers for the public. I believe the public was poorly served by the EPA, and they didn't get the information when they should have. They didn't get the right information. They didn't get information associated with the temperature of these tanks before they blew it up. They shouldn't have blown these train cars up. And so that's our contention.
Robert, well said. The public was poorly served. Robert, Lesley, thanks for being with us, and keep up the good work. We're going to keep following this story.
Thank you both so much.
Thanks for having us.